The store was busy, as usual. The smell of fresh produce mixed with the distant hum of the checkout lanes. The lights above buzzed softly, flickering every now and then. Amara, a 12-year-old girl with braids that barely brushed her shoulders, walked down the aisles, her eyes scanning the shelves. She wasn't really looking at anything in particular, just trying to keep her mind off the things that weighed on her. Her fingers brushed against the cold, plastic packaging, the familiar rhythm of everyday life that felt strangely distant. It was just another day, right? But then, just as she reached for a can of beans, she felt it. The stare. Amara glanced up and saw the security guard, Mr. Mitchell, watching her from the corner of the aisle. His eyes locked onto hers, and for a brief second her stomach dropped. It was a look that felt more like an accusation than an observation. It wasn't just a glance. It was the kind of stare that made her feel different. It made her feel out of place. She quickly turned back to the shelf, hoping the moment would pass. But it didn't. Mr. Mitchell's eyes never left her. Slowly, he started walking toward her, each step deliberate, like he was closing in on a target. Amara's heart began to race. "Excuse me." Mr. Mitchell's voice was firm, his tone cold. "Are you planning to pay for that?" Amara froze, her fingers still on the can. It wasn't that she didn't understand. She knew the rules. She was familiar with the way people looked at her, the way they sometimes assumed things just because of the color of her skin. But today she wasn't prepared for this. She stammered, I wasn't." "Come with me," he interrupted, his voice leaving no room for argument. He didn't even wait for her response, just grabbed her arm firmly and started leading her toward the security office. Amara's chest tightened, her breath caught in her throat. What was happening? She didn't take anything. Why was he treating her like this? She tried to pull away, but his grip was strong. A few people in the aisles stopped and looked, some staring, some whispering. The murmurs started low, then built louder. The judgment was palpable, like a heavy cloud hanging in the air. "She's probably trying to steal something," a woman whispered to her friend, though loud enough for Amara to hear. "Look at her. She doesn't belong here." Amara's face burned. She didn't know what was worse, the fact that people were watching her or the fact that they were already making up their minds about who she was. A stranger, a thief, someone who didn't fit in. As she was led through the aisles, Amara's tears began to well up, but she bit her lip, trying to keep them from spilling. She couldn't let them see her cry. She couldn't let them think she was weak. She tried to calm herself, tried to steady her shaking hands. But the more she thought about her mom in the hospital, the more everything started to feel like too much. Why now? Why was this happening now? Mr. Mitchell opened the door to the security office, pushing her inside with a swift motion. The room was small, cold, and sterile, with a single camera mounted in the corner. The walls were lined with monitors showing footage of the store. Felt like she was under a microscope. "You're going to stay here until I figure this out," he said, his voice still stern. Amara's heart pounded in her chest as she sat down on a hard metal chair, her hands trembling. The room felt suffocating, the silence deafening. She wanted to scream, to explain, to tell them everything. But what could she say? That she had nothing? That she wasn't a criminal? She looked down at her bag, clutching it tighter. The weight of her mother's picture inside felt like the only thing grounding her in that moment. She wasn't a thief. She wasn't. But no one cared to listen. No one cared to ask her side. The door opened again, and the woman from earlier, Mrs. Walker, stood in the doorway. She peered at Amara with a judgmental gaze. But this time, there was something else in her eyes too. Guilt. I didn't know," she said, almost quietly. Her voice cracked slightly. "I just assumed." Amara didn't respond. What could she say? What could anyone say? The truth wasn't always visible on the surface, and it felt like no one wanted to dig deeper. She heard the sound of footsteps approaching from the hallway. It was Mr. Mitchell again, and his face was unreadable. He didn't say anything immediately, but his eyes flickered toward the door as he stepped inside. "Everything is fine now," he said, though his voice lacked conviction. "But I need to check your bag." Amara bit her lip and nodded. She reached inside slowly, her hand trembling, and pulled out a crumpled photo, the edges worn from being carried so often. She stared at it for a moment before handing it to him. As he unfolded it, his face shifted. It wasn't a stolen item. It wasn't anything he had expected. It was just a picture of a mother, lying in a hospital bed, with the note that Amara had kept folded beneath it. "Stay strong, my daughter." The room fell silent. The camera zoomed in on Mr. Mitchell's face, which had gone pale. His eyes met Amara's, and for the first time something shifted. He didn't know what to say, but he didn't need to. Amara wasn't just a girl in the supermarket. She was someone's child, someone who had been carrying more than she could bear. The silence in the small security office hangs like a heavy fog. The seconds stretch into what feels like hours, and Amara can hear the quiet thrum of her heartbeat in her ears. Her hands are clenched tightly around the edges of the chair, her knuckles white, and her breath comes in shallow bursts. She can't shake the feeling that the room is closing in on her, that the judgment from outside has somehow followed her in. Mr. Mitchell holds the photograph in his hands, staring at it with a mix of disbelief and discomfort. He looks down at the note, then back at Amara. The tension is thick, a sudden crack in the atmosphere that makes Amara feel smaller than she's ever felt before. Amara's mind races. Why did he even think she was a thief? What was it about her that made her an easy target? She had been walking through the aisles, just like any other person, looking for something to take her mind off her mother's condition. But instead, she was here, in this cold, harsh place, with everyone assuming the worst about her. The door opens again, and a few more figures step into the room, including Mrs. Walker. She stands awkwardly by the door, glancing between Amara and the security guard. The room feels crowded now, filled with the weight of their presence, their judgment. I didn't know," Mrs. Walker repeats softly, her voice faltering. "I'm sorry, I just assumed." "You assumed wrong," Amara says, cutting her off. Her voice is quieter than she intended, but there's a fire behind her words that catches Mrs. Walker off guard. "You didn't even ask me. You didn't even try to see who I really am." There's a long pause. Amara feels the sting of humiliation in her chest, the sting of knowing that Mrs. Walker and the others were so quick to believe that she could be a criminal, the kind of criminal that people expected her to be. Mrs. Walker looks at Amara, her expression softer now, but still filled with guilt. "I'm so sorry, dear," she says, her voice sincere. "I should have known better. I shouldn't have jumped to conclusions." Amara shakes her head, her thoughts spiraling. She didn't care about the apology. What did it really mean at this point? What good were apologies when the damage had already been done? Mr. Mitchell sets the photo down on the table, his hands shaking slightly. He looks at Amara, but she won't meet his gaze. She can't. She's too angry, too hurt. "Listen," Mr. Mitchell says, his voice quieter than before. "I didn't know. I didn't realize." "You didn't realize?" Amara's voice trembles, but she manages to hold it together. "You didn't even stop to think. You just assumed that because I look like this, because of who I am, I must be a thief." The words hang heavy in the air, and for the first time, Mr. Mitchell looks genuinely remorseful. He opens his mouth to say something, but no words come. He's silent, his face flushed with embarrassment. A sudden knock on the door cuts through the tension, and Amara flinches. Mr. Mitchell opens the door, and a uniformed officer steps inside. He looks at Amara, then back at Mr. Mitchell. "Is everything okay in here?" the officer asks, his tone businesslike. Mr. Mitchell clears his throat. "Yes, everything is fine. Just a misunderstanding." The officer doesn't seem convinced, but nods anyway, stepping back out into the hallway. The door shuts quietly behind him, leaving Amara, Mr. Mitchell, and Mrs. Walker alone in the small, sterile room. Mrs. Walker moves closer to Amara, her face etched with concern. "I can't imagine what you must be going through, sweetheart," she says softly, her voice cracking with emotion. "I should have known better. I'm so sorry." Amara looks at her, but her anger is too raw to be softened by pity. She doesn't want pity. She wants to be seen for who she truly is, more than just a black girl caught in a stereotype. I'm just trying to see my mom, Amara says quietly, the words slipping out before she can stop them. She's in the hospital. She's dying. The room falls silent again. Mrs. Walker's face softens, her guilt deepening as she finally understands the weight of Amara's journey. The photo wasn't just a picture, it was a lifeline, a connection to a mother who was slipping away. Amara swallows hard, the lump in her throat growing bigger with every passing second. She feels exposed now, not just because of the humiliation she's just suffered, but because she's sharing something so deeply personal. She's sharing her fear. She's sharing the last moments of her mother's life with people who, until a few minutes ago, had no idea who she was. I just wanted to see her one last time, Amara says, her voice barely a whisper. I didn't want to be here. I didn't want any of this. But I don't have anyone else. I just want to be with her. Mrs. Walker looks at her, the weight of her previous judgment falling away, replaced with something else. Understanding. Compassion. She reaches out, her hand hovering in the air for a moment before she places it gently on Amara's shoulder. I understand, she says softly. I truly do. I'm so sorry for what you've had to go through. If there's anything I can do. Amara pulls away slightly, not wanting anyone's charity. She doesn't need their pity. She doesn't need their apologies. She needs to see her mother. I just need to go, Amara says, standing up and reaching for her bag. I'm leaving. The room falls silent once more, and for a moment, the only sound is Amara's footsteps as she walks toward the door, her heart heavy but determined. She doesn't look back. She doesn't need to. The supermarket is still bustling, but everything feels quieter to Amara now. The fluorescent lights above seem dimmer, the chatter from the aisles softer, as though she's walking in a world that's no longer hers. Her hands shake slightly as she clutches her bag, the weight of everything heavy on her shoulders. But the drive to see her mother, to be by her side, is stronger than the humiliation that still clings to her like a shadow. As she exits the security office and walks down the hallway, the cold air from the store greets her, brushing against her face. She's trying to hold it together, to push forward and pretend like everything is fine, but it's impossible. She wants to cry, to scream, to let it all out. But she can't. Not yet. The door to the store opens and she steps back into the brightly lit aisles, the noise of the checkout lines surrounding her. She's almost to the exit when she sees him again. Mr. Mitchell, standing near the door, watching her, as though waiting for something, maybe for her to do something, say something. His expression is mixed, guilt and regret written all over his face. Amara stops for a moment and their eyes meet. She's still angry, but a small part of her understands that the man in front of her isn't the real enemy. The system, the assumptions, the judgment, those are the enemies she's fighting. She doesn't say anything. She doesn't need to. She turns and walks toward the exit, her footsteps echoing in the silence. She's so close to the door when she hears a voice call out behind her. Amara. She freezes. It's Mr. Mitchell's voice again. She turns slowly, and this time he's holding out her bag, the one she had dropped in the security office. There's something strange in his eyes, remorse, maybe? Or maybe guilt. She's not sure. But the way he's holding her bag seems almost like an apology. I owe you an explanation, he says, his voice shaky. I never should have treated you like that. I'm sorry for what I did. Amara stares at him for a moment, then glances down at the bag in his hand. Her mind flashes back to her mother, to the photo of her in the hospital and the note that had been tucked inside. The truth hits her like a ton of bricks. He doesn't know. He doesn't understand why she was so desperate, why she was so afraid. All he saw was a girl who might have stolen something, a girl who didn't belong. But he didn't know the whole story. He didn't know why she was really there. She walks over to him, her voice low but steady. You don't know anything about me, she says. You don't know why I'm here. She reaches for her bag, but as she takes it from his hands, she feels something shift within her. She's not angry anymore. She's not bitter. She's just tired. Tired of being misunderstood, tired of carrying this weight alone. And then, without warning, she opens the bag, the crumpled photograph falling into her hands. She stares at it for a moment, at the woman lying in the hospital bed, her face pale, the faint lines of pain etched in her features. The note is still folded carefully beneath it. Stay strong, my daughter. For the first time, Amara feels the full weight of the words. She's not just a girl in a store accused of something she didn't do. She's someone's daughter, someone with a life and a purpose beyond this moment. She holds the photograph out to Mr. Mitchell, her voice trembling but firm. This is why I was here. I wasn't stealing anything. I was just trying to get to my mom. She's dying. And this, she points to the picture, this is all I have left. For a moment, Mr. Mitchell doesn't speak. He just looks at the photograph, then back at her. His face softens, his eyes filled with something that might be regret, real regret, the kind that changes a person. He looks at her, his voice barely a whisper. "I'm sorry. I didn't know." Amara nods, the lump in her throat growing. She doesn't want an apology. She doesn't need one. What she needs is something else. She needs to see her mother. With one last glance at the security guard, Amara turns away, heading for the exit once more. Her steps are firm now, her heart still heavy, but with a sense of purpose. She's not a criminal. She's not a stereotype. She's a daughter who needs to be with her mother. The door swings open and the cold air hits her face. She steps outside into the world that once seemed so harsh. But now it feels different. Now she knows the truth and she carries it with her like a shield. The world outside the supermarket is harsh and cold, but Amara walks through it with a quiet determination. She grips her bag tightly, the photograph of her mother still clutched in her hand. The weight of it pulls her back in time, to a moment when life was simpler. Before the illness, before the pain, before everything changed. The streets seem distant, like a blur of faces and noise. The harshness of the moment fades away as her mind drifts back to her childhood, to the memories of her mother that she holds so dearly. Flashback to the past. Amara was younger then, no more than 8, running around the house with laughter in her voice, chasing after the dog, her mother's soft voice calling her name from the kitchen. The house wasn't fancy, but it was theirs. The smell of fresh bread baking in the oven, the sound of her mother humming softly as she worked. Life was full of love. And Amara was the center of it all. "Mom," Amara called, her voice full of joy. "Look what I can do." Her mother, sitting at the kitchen table with her hands folded in her lap, looked up with a soft smile, her eyes filled with warmth and pride. "What is it, baby?" Amara spun around in a circle, her dress twirling around her. "I can spin like a ballerina. Look." Her mother chuckled softly, setting down the newspaper she had been reading. "You're getting better every day. Keep practicing, my girl." Amara grinned, running around the house, feeling the pure happiness of being a child. Her mother watched her, her smile never fading, but there was something else in her eyes, something that Amara didn't understand at the time. A quiet sadness. The scene shifts. Time moves forward. One day when Amara was 10, her mother became sick. At first, it seemed like just a cold, something that would pass. But as the days went by, the sickness took hold of her mother with a viciousness that no one expected. Her laughter faded. The twinkle in her eyes dulled, and her steps grew slower, more labored. The days blurred together as Amara watched her mother slip away, piece by piece. Flashback to a hospital room. The sterile white walls of the hospital room were harsh and unforgiving. Amara sat quietly in the corner, her knees pulled up to her chest. Her mother lay in the bed, hooked up to machines that beeped in time with her weak heart. The light from the window streamed in, casting long shadows across the room. Amara's mother, barely able to speak, reached out her hand. Amara quickly rushed to her side, taking her hand in her own. "Mom," Amara whispered, her voice breaking. Her mother gave her a weak smile. "Don't cry, baby girl. I'm just tired. But I'll be with you in your heart. Always." Amara's eyes filled with tears. "Please, don't go. I need you." Her mother squeezed her hand. "You'll be okay. You're strong, just like your father." She paused, her breath shallow. "Remember, Amara, always stay strong. For me. And for you." Tears rolled down Amara's cheeks as she held her mother's hand tightly. She didn't understand why this was happening. Why her mother had to be taken from her like this. She didn't understand why the world felt so unfair. But in that moment, something inside her shifted. She made a promise. A promise to her mother. "I will stay strong," Amara whispered through her tears. "I will." The flashback ends and the present rushes back. Amara walks quickly down the sidewalk, her feet moving faster now as she heads toward the hospital. She grips her bag tightly again, the memory of her mother's words echoing in her mind. Stay strong. Her mother had been everything to her. And now, with everything she had left, her mother's memory, the photo, the note, Amara would keep that promise. She'd always stayed strong, even when the world didn't give her a reason to. Amara's steps quicken as she approaches the hospital, the building looming in front of her. She feels the weight of the photo in her hand, the small piece of her mother that she carries with her everywhere. The last connection to the woman who had been her world. As she walks through the hospital doors, the automatic doors opening with a soft whoosh, she tries to steady her breathing. She's almost there. Almost to her mother's side. The hospital lobby is stark and sterile, the smell of antiseptic in the air, mingling with the soft sounds of distant beeping from machines and the shuffle of busy nurses. Amara walks through it all with purpose, the photo in her hand like an anchor that keeps her grounded, though her heart is a whirlwind of emotion. She doesn't stop to look at the reception desk or anyone around her. Her eyes are fixed ahead, her focus narrowing only on the room where her mother lies, slipping further away from her with each passing day. Her feet carry her down the long hallway, her thoughts racing. The image of her mother, frail and hooked up to machines, keeps playing in her mind. She'd promised her mother she'd stay strong. But how do you stay strong when the one person who's been your rock is breaking apart? Amara's steps slow as she nears the door to the ICU. The sight of the glass window and the quiet murmurs from the nurse's station only intensify the fear she's been carrying for days. Her mind flashes back to the security office, to the public humiliation she'd endured and the people who judged her without knowing her story. But she won't let that define her. She has a bigger story, one that's written in the moments she shared with her mother. She places her hand on the door, her heart pounding in her chest. She's almost there. Almost to her mom. The door creaks open softly and Amara steps inside, her breath catching as she sees her mother lying in the hospital bed, pale and fragile, her eyes closed. Machines beep steadily beside her, tubes running in and out of her arms and chest, holding her in a delicate balance. Amara feels a sharp pang in her chest, a lump rising in her throat. She doesn't move right away. She just stands there, frozen for a moment, taking in the sight of the woman who's been her world, the woman who's held her when she was scared, comforted her when she was sad, and loved her unconditionally. Her mother, though weak, opens her eyes slowly as she senses Amara's presence. Her lips curl into a soft, strained smile. The mother's voice, though faint, still carries the warmth of the love she's always had for her daughter. "Amara," she whispers, her voice cracked from the dryness of her throat. Amara quickly crosses the room and sits at her mother's side, taking her hand gently in her own. "I'm here, Mom. I'm here." Her mother's smile widens, but her eyes are filled with pain. She squeezes Amara's hand weakly. "I knew you'd come. I knew you'd be strong. You always were." Amara leans forward, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm so sorry, Mom. I couldn't be strong for you when you needed me most. I let everything else, what people thought, what they said, get in the way." Her mother's eyes soften, her thumb brushing across Amara's hand. "You were always strong, baby. But you're allowed to feel. You're allowed to hurt. But you must keep moving forward. For yourself. For me." Amara swallows, tears welling up once again. "But how do I keep going? How do I live without you?" Her mother's gaze shifts to the photo on the table beside the bed, the photo of them from when Amara was a little girl, her mother holding her tight. She turns her head back to Amara, her voice a soft, reassuring whisper. "I'll always be with you, baby girl. I'll always be in your heart. Keep me there." Amara's tears fall freely now, but she doesn't try to stop them. She leans down and kisses her mother's forehead, holding her hand tight. "I'll never forget you. I'll stay strong. I promise." Amara sits in the waiting room outside the ICU, her eyes red from crying, but a sense of peace settling over her. Her mother's words echo in her mind. "Keep me in your heart." Her phone buzzes in her pocket. It's a text from Mrs. Walker, the woman who had been so quick to judge her in the supermarket. "I'm so sorry, Amara. I made a terrible mistake. Please know that I'm thinking of you and I hope your mom gets the peace she deserves." Amara stares at the message, her fingers hovering over the screen. She's not sure what she feels about Mrs. Walker's apology. It's too little, too late. But there's something else in her heart now, a deep sense of understanding. Maybe this is what her mother meant. To stay strong and not let the past define her. She types back a short reply. "Thank you. But I'm okay. I've got my mom's love in my heart. That's enough." She takes a deep breath and stands up, wiping her tears away. The battle with the world's assumptions, the judgments, the pain, she knows it's not over. But it's a battle she doesn't have to fight alone. She has herself and she has her mother's love. And for now, that's enough to keep her moving forward. The night is quiet, the hospital room now bathed in the soft glow of the moonlight that filters through the blinds. The hum of machines and the gentle beeping of the heart monitor are the only sounds that fill the room. Amara sits beside her mother's bed, her hands still clutching her mother's frail one, as if she can hold on to the love that's been passed down to her, the strength her mother had shown her all these years. Her mother's breathing is slow and steady, but Amara knows time is running out. She had promised her mother she would stay strong, but now, as she sits there in the stillness, Amara realizes that strength isn't about holding everything inside. It's about accepting what she can't change and finding the courage to face what comes next. Amara's mind drifts back to the events at the supermarket, how quickly people had judged her, how easily they had labeled her as a thief, a troublemaker, without knowing anything about her. She thinks about Mrs. Walker, the woman who had assumed the worst, and how easily it could have been anyone else, how many others had been judged for reasons beyond their control. The thought makes her chest tighten again, but this time it's not with anger. It's with something else. It's with a deep, painful understanding. The world, she realizes, will never stop making assumptions. People will always be quick to judge based on what they see on the surface, based on who they think someone is. But she knows now that those assumptions don't define her. They never did. Amara takes a deep breath, brushing a stray lock of hair behind her ear. She looks down at her mother's peaceful face, a bittersweet smile forming on her lips. "I'll be okay, Mom," she whispers, her voice breaking. "I'll be okay. You taught me how to be strong. And I promise I'll carry that strength with me." The next morning, Amara walks out of the hospital, her head held a little higher. The world outside feels the same, the noise, the rush of people, the never-ending movement, but to her, everything is different now. She no longer feels like an outsider, no longer like the world is closing in on her. She feels, in a way, like she's been freed from the judgment that had once weighed so heavily on her. As she walks down the street, the sun rising behind her, Amara feels a quiet confidence settle in her heart. She's still mourning, still missing her mother deeply. But her mother's love is now a part of her, an invisible strength that will always guide her. She remembers her mother's words, "Stay strong, for me, and for you." Amara knows now that being strong isn't about never breaking down. It's about rising every time you fall, about carrying the love and lessons of those who came before you, and about not letting the opinions of others define who you are. Sometimes the hardest battles are the ones we fight alone. But even in those battles, we find our strength, and we learn that we're never truly alone. The people who love us, the people who believe in us, live in our hearts forever. As Amara walks forward, the camera zooms out, the sounds of the busy city continuing to play in the background. The world moves on, unaware of the quiet transformation that's taken place within her. But she knows now. She knows who she is, and nothing can take that away from her. And in that moment, Amara takes the first step toward healing, toward forgiveness, and toward the future she will build for herself. Sometimes we are judged by the world before we're even given a chance to speak. In moments of vulnerability, we must remember that our worth is not defined by others' assumptions or fleeting judgments. The true strength lies in standing firm in our own truth and finding compassion for others, even when they fail to understand. Stay strong, stay kind, and remember that love and understanding can overcome the harshest of circumstances. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Karma Stories for more powerful, life-changing stories. Let's spread kindness together.